Mr. President, when I took the gavel as chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, one of my first goals and objectives was to restore the committee's oversight role. Since the beginning of the 117th Congress, we've kept close watch on those agencies of the executive branch which are within our jurisdiction. We've held oversight hearings on the Justice Department, FBI, and the Federal Bureau of Prisons, to mention a few. This last Tuesday, we continued that tradition with a second oversight hearing on the Department of Homeland Security. It's worth noting that under the previous administration, the previous president, the Homeland Security Secretary only appeared before our committee one time in 4 years. So we're glad to welcome Secretary Mayorkas back to the hearing room and learn about the work that he is undertaking to keep America safe. As I mentioned on Tuesday, I think Secretary Mayorkas has one of the hardest jobs in Washington. Department of Homeland Security is responsible for defending our nation from a wide range of threats, from domestic terrorism, narcotics trafficking, climate crisis, even cyber attacks. But despite this broad mandate, our discussion kept returning to one subject last Tuesday: America's broken immigration system. It was interesting to hear the Republican senators on my committee critical of the job that Mr. Mayorkas is doing as head of the DHS, while at the same time it has been over 30 years since this body, the United States Senate, has enacted legislation to upgrade and modernize our immigration system. 30 years. Trust me, the world has changed dramatically in that period. The Senate has refused to keep pace. It's easy to criticize Secretary Mayorkas about our border situation, and he faces some amazing challenges. But let's face it, we share in the responsibility for this situation, and we certainly share in the burden of coming up with solutions that help. For years, I've tried my best to pass appropriations reform. There was a bipartisan moment 10 years ago when a so-called gang of 8 senators, 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans, and I was included in that group, sat down and wrote a comprehensive immigration reform package. I think it was pretty good. In fact, it was so good that it passed on the floor of the United States Senate with over 60 votes in favor of it. We had our fingers crossed and sent it across the rotunda over to the Republican-controlled House, and for 2 years, they refused to even consider it. They even called for a debate, to offer any of their own amendments. They did nothing, nothing. And we are paying the price for that today. So here's the question after this week's hearing. Are we going to keep pointing our fingers and mugging for the cameras, or are we going to come together to fix the immigration system? I'm ready. I certainly hope the members of the House are ready, but we need a bipartisan consensus to get that done.